Good morning, everyone. My name is Amanda Kramer, and I'm the Project Safe Childhood Coordinator for the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. Welcome to our first Crimes Against Children conference. We are so excited to bring this training to New York City and to all of you. After having spent several years working on sex trafficking cases, one thing became very clear to me that many of you probably already know. The vast majority of sex trafficking victims were victims of child sex abuse, often at a very, very young age. So the work that all of us are doing is important, not just to get justice for those who have been victimized, but to prevent their re-victimization, and hopefully to prevent the crimes from happening in the first place. We're incredibly grateful for all of our law enforcement partners, all of whom are here: the FBI, Homeland Security, the NYPD, the United States Marshals Service, the district attorney's offices of Kings County, Queens County, Manhattan, and Westchester. And I also want to thank everyone who agreed to present today, some of whom came from very, very far away. All of the members of the United States Attorney's Office and the staff who have helped put this conference together, and all of you for attending. And last, but certainly not least, the executive staff of the U.S. Attorney's Office and the U.S. Attorney himself. There is nothing better as a prosecutor than working for someone who challenges you to address wrongs that need righting, to pursue more difficult cases, and to think outside the box in fulfilling our mission. Preet does all that and more. He has never said no to me, and I have had a lot of asks. When it comes to protecting children and seeking justice for those who have been victimized, I cannot imagine a more supportive United States Attorney. Please help me welcome the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Preet Bharara.
Thank you, Amanda, and thank you all for being here. There is no one who does more in this area anywhere in the country than Amanda Kramer, and I'm going to say more about that in a moment, but I wanted to say thank you for helping to organize this conference and inviting all of you here. I want to thank the audience for helpfully arraying yourselves as between those who prefer my left profile and those who prefer my right profile. This is actually the perfect setup if I were a hammerhead shark. So I want to spend a couple of minutes welcoming you and also improving my peripheral vision. This is a tough issue that we have to deal with, and I know it takes a particular kind of sensitivity on the part of so many people in law enforcement and outside law enforcement to make a difference here. To our law enforcement partners, fellow prosecutors, and victim advocates, I hope it is clear to you every day that the work you do is deeply important to me, but more significantly than that, to this office, and of course, to the children who have survived their victimization and to all of their families. It is especially important to those children who have not yet been rescued or recovered, and for whom we all work so tirelessly. I know all too well that you give your hearts and souls to these cases that take you to the darkest side of humanity, and for that heroic work, you deserve to be recognized and thanked more than I'm capable of doing this morning. So it's an honor to welcome you all. I just want to spend a couple of minutes talking about the scope of the problem that you're here to address this morning, some of the nature of our response, and a little bit of a call to action. So first, let's talk about the scope of the problem. Frankly, it's terrifying. It's actually more than terrifying. There are more ways to victimize a child now than ever before. Kids are getting cell phones as young as age 5. Some statistics suggest that most kids have phones by age 7. Every cell phone now is a camera, a video recorder, and a computer, and can be an instrumentality of a horrific crime. You know, in some ways, it's kind of ironic that we arm children with cell phones and a computer for safety and education, and in doing so, we help connect them to an entire world. But they can also become agents of harm, those cell phones. The normal curiosity children and teenagers have today is no different than it was 20 years ago. But things have changed, and the difference is technology. Technology has made it so much harder than warning about what we all used to hear about when we were kids, the infamous stranger with candy in a van. Today's stranger takes on many forms. He's on the internet, posing as another child. He's hiding behind a fake profile. He's exploiting the false sense of security created by online anonymity. And he is using video chat, instant messaging apps, peer-to-peer software, and a device that he knows will be locked or encrypted and unable to be searched, even in the face of a lawful search warrant signed by a federal judge. Now, much has been said in recent weeks and months about the ways technology companies can help or hinder law enforcement efforts to obtain evidence of serious crimes. Evidence, I should note, that is accessible to technology companies and that is sought through valid court orders. Refusing to provide evidence in child exploitation cases unequivocally hurts our efforts to seek justice, ultimately hurts the children we are seeking to protect, and gives unforgivable sanctuary to child predators. We are grateful that we have a number of technology companies here at this conference today, including Facebook, Google, and Microsoft. They are here today to present at this conference. I wish I could say the same about Apple, but they declined repeated efforts to get them to attend this conference. I guess you can ask them about that. So the good news is, in the face of all this terrifying news and the terrifying developments in recent years, is that there has been a robust response from law enforcement and from victim advocates. With respect to not only technology, but also evading law enforcement and luring victims, we have learned that the defendants we prosecute in these cases can be cunning, sophisticated, and relentless. But we have worked and continue to work tirelessly in this area. As I mentioned before, Amanda Kramer, who has done so much work in this area, is our Project Safe Childhood Coordinator. She spearheads our office's efforts of outreach and helps to oversee more than 75 active cases being investigated and prosecuted by some 40 assistant U.S. attorneys. And what kinds of cases are we talking about? The kinds of cases that you're going to be talking about more as the morning wears on. Child pornography. We have prosecuted the most depraved producers of child pornography anywhere, and those who trade in it, and those who possess it. Child pornography crimes, even what some refer to as mere possession, are a scourge. Every single act of possession of child pornography reviolates, re-traumatizes, and re-injures a very real child who is victimized in the most horrible way. Child enticement and child sex abuse. I cannot recall a time when we haven't been actively pursuing a target who uses the internet to try to lure a child into every parent's worst nightmare. We have prosecuted victimizers from every walk of life, from educator to therapist to parent. The threat to children is everywhere, sadly. Our successes in these cases have been many, thanks to our law enforcement partners who seek out predators online, work undercover posing as children or fellow predators, and make a case before an actual child victim is made to suffer harm. We also look at child sex trafficking. Thanks to the work of agents, officers, and victim specialists, and the courage of sex trafficking survivors, we have obtained convictions and sentences that incapacitate child sex traffickers for many, many years, as the federal law allows us to do. We are talking about traffickers who prey on the most vulnerable members of our society. Time and time again, we see young teenagers, both boys and girls, in foster care, in shelters, without any homes at all, handpicked by those who want to sell them for a profit. Now, let me say something for a moment about teenage victims. Now, as a society, we expect victims to meet certain expectations, to want our help, to welcome rescue. With teenagers, things can be much more complicated. It is rare to encounter a teenage victim who looks and acts like we want them to look and act. Teenage victims, as some of you know who work in this area, rarely self-identify as victims. They can come across as angry, willful, and uncooperative, but they are no less victimized than their younger counterparts. So it's incumbent on all of us to remember in those situations that what may come across as hostility or indifference or even enjoyment is often a manifestation of severe trauma and deep shame. And so it takes a special kind of sensitivity to help these victims. And so I congratulate you on your work in that area. In addition, as you might expect, we prosecute sex offenders, many of whom were first convicted in state and local courts, who move into New York and fail to register, hiding in plain sight in our own communities and neighborhoods. And of course, in addition to working on our cases, we are also having this conference, because we know that the more we collaborate, the better the outcome. And that brings me to my third and final point, because prosecution is a blunt instrument. I say that all the time, no matter what the area is that I'm talking about. And prosecution, by itself, is never enough to solve any profound and grave public safety problem or social problem. And so, although we diligently work to investigate and prosecute these cases, the unfortunate reality is that by the time we are involved, by the time there is a case, it is often too late. The harm has already happened when we're talking about cases other than the sting cases. And I can think of no area where prevention is more important, where deterrence is more important. And so for those reasons, I think we all need to do even more than we are doing at the moment. Schools have to do more, and parents have to do more. We need more prevention, education for our children, and we need it early enough to make a difference. And of course, the nature of the education matters. It is no longer sufficient just to warn children about abduction and hands-on abuse, although of course that's important and always will be. The dangers of the internet must be part of the dialogue. I mentioned before, technology has changed, and therefore the threat has changed. And so the way we educate our children and we educate the people who are supposed to educate our children has also changed. There is no better resource on safety and prevention than the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, or NCMEC, which we are grateful to have presenting here at this conference as well. And the prosecutors and law enforcement officers here today, while many of you are already engaged in robust outreach, I would exhort you and implore you to do even more than you're doing. You are in the best position to keep parents and educators apprised of the latest threats. So I want you to keep getting the bad guys, but also keep raising awareness, keep educating the public. When it comes to talking to children, I know these are very difficult conversations to have. I have children myself, young children, and it's a disturbing, uncomfortable, painful topic. And I know all too well how difficult it is. When we were preparing for this conference, I had a conversation with Amanda, and I was talking about a conversation I had to have with my own son about the nature of child predators. And the reason I had that conversation was he was in the Cub Scouts, and it was a requirement that we had to fulfill one week. And I had that conversation with some difficulty with my own child, and I'm the United States Attorney. So I have some understanding and sense of how difficult it can be for parents and for educators to have those conversations without being prodded. And so, no one wants to be the person who fractures a child's innocence, but we cannot leave our children vulnerable, and we have to encourage these conversations no matter how difficult they are. Parents and educators are the first lines of defense against these horrific crimes, just as schools have fire drills, and now, in this day and age, lockdown drills. We must equip children in a sensitive and sensible way with the knowledge and the tools to protect themselves. We have no other choice if we're going to get this job done. So again, I want to thank you all for the incredible work you do. I hope you have a productive conference. I want to thank Amanda again, and enjoy yourselves this morning. Thanks so much.